What is going on, NBA draft fans? It's your boys from No Ceilings here with our final live stream 2024 NBA mock draft. We will have one more mock draft going live on NoCeilingsNBA.com tomorrow, which will be a much more predictive mock. But today, we as a team are going to give you the what would we do mock draft for the 2024 NBA draft cycle. And to be completely honest, everybody, I'm a little nervous because we got a lot of personality on the screen and oh so little time. So I am here joined by, we got Maxwell, Albert, Rowan, Tyler, and Nick, and myself, Corey Tulaba, to have some fun, hang out, get into some mock. So fellas, how we feeling?
Alive. I'm alive. I'm excited. It's draft time. We're ready to go.
Definitely not going to be tired. That's definitely not what's happening for any of us.
At this part of the year, I don't think so. But with that said, should we just like get going on this thing? I mean, the Atlanta Hawks are on the clock, right? So let's try to figure this thing out. Who we taking? Tyler, what do you got?
I'm going to throw out Donovan Clingan. I think he's the best center in this class. Makes a lot of sense with that team. Upside with a really high floor.
He's the best. Is he? You think he's the best center, but do you think he's the best player in this class? Is my question to you now. If this is the number one pick, they can choose anyone.
Of course not. I have Steph Castle at number one, but same tier as Clingan as our. I don't think fit-wise Castle makes a whole lot of sense with the Hawks, unfortunately.
Yeah, but think about that Kobe Steph backcourt when they trade DeJounte and Trey.
Yeah, and maybe 4 years from now, AJ Griffin will get minutes again too. But
I had to bring that up
because I mean, if you can bench a lethal shooter, you just kind of have to do it.
Everyone knows that.
Yeah, and hypothetically, if they make a ton of franchise-altering roster moves, then Castle makes a little more sense. But I think everything, I would be surprised if they did that in totality. So I think Clingan's a super easy plug-and-play fit. Ship out Capella, get something for him, or re-sign him if you want to, and ship out Okongwu and get a little more. So.
Maxwell, you've been a little bit more on the Alex Sarr bandwagon for most of the cycle. Mm-hmm. Where are you at now with this?
Yeah, so I still have Sarr 1. I have 3 guys in my top tier, and Clingan is one of those guys. So if that's a route we go, I'm not like gonna leave the stream just yet. I'll save that for when Modest Bazelis gets slandered later on. But no, I like Clingan a lot. I think he's really good. I think the fit is really obvious, just especially with what he can do as a screener and a handoff operator with a guy like Trae Young, if you're keeping him. Personally, I'm just like not huge on this roster construction as a whole. So I would be swinging for the highest ceiling player, which I believe to be Alex Sarr. I think the floor is certainly a lot uglier. I think especially if he is wanting to be at the 4 and then like this roster, like that's just not a lot of guys that shoot threes. If you're looking at like him and Jalen Johnson as your forward duo, even if the size there is awesome. I would be looking to make a lot of moves to reshape what this roster is constructed like, and I would pick Alex Sarr would be my personal choice, but I am more than okay with Donovan Clingan. I could live with it.
Well, that's one Clingan, one Sarr. We have a Ricochet in the room.
Corey, I was just about to say, when do we start talking about Ricochet, right? Let's say there is no trade, which there probably will be, but we can't assume. We can't see the future. Don't know all that. But if they don't, and they keep Trey and DeJounte, well, but at the same time, well, what do you do about AJ Griffin, right, guys? I don't know. But Ricochet with the size and the shooting and the defensive ability and acumen, he's got to be in the conversation, right? Also, we should note Ignacio wrote a beautiful piece about him. And I think everyone should go to NoCeilingsNBA.com and go check that one out. But I think would be a great option here and should at least be in the conversation. What do you think, Rowan?
I think for myself, how I feel on Risache might be a little bit lower. On my own board, he's 8, which that is something that maybe I have to argue exactly a bit more for. I think that I'm more on the thinking that Maxwell you're talking about with Sar. It's no one is a clear like drop dead knockdown #1 choice at that top of the draft. You want to swing for upside because if you have that capability, even with how the roster is constructed, I think Sar is someone who can exist in the current construction and in whatever the Hawks will be next. And so I think either Klingon or Sar makes a lot of sense. I have Sar higher, and so Risache, I see a bit more of a cleaner fit, but I've got to stick with who's top of my board is Sar.
All right. So let's take it to a vote. All right, Maxwell, let's start with you because I'm not quite sure after you're going Sar. All right, Albert.
I'm going Klingon.
All right. Rowan's going Sar. 2-1. So I am going to go Klingon. So it's 2-2. Metcalf, Klingon. You nominated Klingon.
Yep.
3-2. So Nick.
I'm going to make everybody hate me. Sar.
Okay.
Not that they weren't there already.
Perfect.
Do you want to, in this case, break the tie with where we think Atlanta leans? Or do we want to use a different method?
What's the different method you had in mind?
Coin toss. No, I have no idea. Kumite. Yeah, I don't know. I think Klingon is obviously like the more likely outcome, and I do think too, like, if I have to be the one to break the tie, I guess I would say if I'm Atlanta and Alex Sar does not want to play for me, having other players in his same tier, in that case, I would probably just pick Klingon.
Okay. I will say, the one thing I do want to note regarding one, Alex Sar not wanting to play for Atlanta, and 2, him wanting to play power forward. For me, I don't care either way because he has no choice. Like, that's the way that basketball teams work. Like, I don't know. I want to play power forward. Awesome. You're a center.
Trent Flowers wanted to play point guard this year too. Like, I think guys kind of figured it out on their own.
Yeah. Like, you are like, Mobley probably wants to play power forward. He's a center. Chet is a center. Like, these guys are centers. Like, if this guy's going to be good, he's going to be a center. So that'll sort itself out. All right. So I guess we're going to go Klingon because, Maxwell, you're kind of a swing vote here.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
So we are going to take Donovan Klingon to the Atlanta Hawks of UConn Husky 2-time champion fame. That means the Wizards now are on the clock. And remember, this is a what would we do mock. So, Albert, I'm going to start with you. Wizards are on the clock. Who would you personally go?
I think, we just had the Klingon Sar conversation. I love everything that you guys said about Sar. I think we have to throw Sar's name up on the board, and we've got to consider it here, considering, I think, the analytical part of my brain is saying that the Wizards need good players. I think it's a pretty smart take. On
Hot take.
I think
need
Sar,
to see some numbers.
Let me get back to you on that. But with Sar, obviously the conversation with him is he's kind of like a safe/lottery ticket type of guy.
Yeah.
And if I can explain, just with him, like, the offensive stuff is the lottery ticket. You're taking the bet, right? You're kind of taking a shot in the dark and hoping he figures out the shooting. He becomes versatile and fun on the offensive side, but he's just not there yet. We like to call that theoretical, is where he's at with the offense. I think defensively, right, the baseline, the foundation there is a lot cleaner. I think he's going to be a good defender. He already is. And something that Corey's been mentioning a lot whenever he talks about Sar is he talks about the playoff run, right? And how he was used in the playoffs, and how he played a little bit more of like a simpler, you could even say maybe like neutered, simplified game in the playoffs, where he was just, screen and roll, playing defense, not trying to do too much offensively. So I want to throw Sar's name up on the board and say the Wizards should definitely be considering a guy like that because of the floor with him, but also the ceiling.
Well, who are you considering?
Oh yeah, so Sar. That's what I'm considering.
Alex Sar.
I am right there with you. I think the biggest thing too is like they just need high upside players. Like this is a team that desperately needs hope, like just on that level alone. But the fact with Sar that you're getting a big man to anchor the defense, someone that is going to provide you with somewhat of an identity too, between like him, Koulibaly, if you're keeping Denny, like that is like a really young, nasty defensive core, and maybe gives you something that you can sell your players on and get them to buy in with a little bit. And like Jordan Poole, if he really buys in defensively, you know, maybe he could be one of the top like 300 or so defenders in the league even next year. But yeah, I think that like just the idea of getting that lottery ticket is so important for them. So for me, seeing him highest ceiling player on the board, a team that desperately needs a high ceiling player, this is undoubtedly where you go for me.
Metcalf, opposite corner.
Yeah, and if we're talking highest upside and guy who has a chance to be the best player in this draft, I'm going to throw out Steph Castle. What I think will, if we're doing what I think will happen if Sar's on the board, I think it's Sar easier. I know I'm explaining myself, but we're not doing that. God, so rude. Can't get.
I thought you were going to say AJ Johnson.
Don't tell me. No, I think Steph Castle has legit all-star upside. I know the shooting numbers are bad. They're very bad. I'm kind of in the mindset of I think he'll be fine. I think he does so much else on both ends of the floor where the defense is elite. The off-ball movement was fantastic. The rebounding, the passing, all of it's really high level, really explosive in tight spaces, tight handle, really creative footwork, balance, positional strength. If the shot comes along, I think it will. When I say that, I mean like 35-ish career percentage. So obviously can always be better, but I think that'll be more than enough once he kind of finds the confidence in it. So that would be my pick for Castle. I have Sar in the same tier though, so I wouldn't hate it.
All right, Nick.
I mean, I'm with the Sar part of the discussion. I think that the combination of what Maxwell said of giving hope to a franchise that doesn't exactly have hope. Albert was looking for Wizards numbers earlier. How about 15? That's the number of games they won last year. I think that's a pretty big number for this team. So if I'm in their position, I would go with someone who I think has incredible defensive upside and has figured out enough on offense to, I think, be the person I would have at the top of my board for the Wizards here.
Now, when they trade Kuzma, are we thinking they set the all-time record for worst offensive team of all time?
They might.
No, because they're going to trade him to the Kings, and Kevin Huerter is going to average 30 a game.
No. I am just going to throw out Reed Shepherd because Reed Shepherd is a good basketball player with, I don't know, the most valuable NBA skill there is. Shot 52% from three. I'm still trying to figure out if that's good or not. Maybe by tomorrow night, I'll figure that out. I think, to borrow a term from my friend Jay Kyle Mann, he is a universal donor where he is just a unbelievable fit. Any spot, any basketball team, rec league, varsity, NBA, college, NBA, you put him anywhere and he's just going to find a way to be awesome in that situation. I get that he's 6'3" in shoes with a 6'3" wingspan. Nobody's nerfed in this draft. You know what I mean? So I'm going to throw out Reed Shepherd, but we got Maxwell with Sar. We have Nick with Sar. Albert, you said Sar, correct?
I did say Sar.
That's 3. Rowan, you're up. Unless he's frozen on the screen.
I think you might.
I think he froze.
Thought he was
train
deep
as
in
well.
thought.
Yeah.
Whoops.
I'll be the 4th, 5th, whatever votes there for.
Sounds like Rowan's going with Sar.
Cool.
Yeah, Sar. He's on the train.
Sar train for Rowan. All right. That means that the Washington Wizards are going to get their man from France by way of OTE in Australia, Alex Sarr. And now the Houston Rockets are on the clock. Albert. Actually, you know what?
Sure.
We're not going to start with you, Albert. We're going to start with Nick.
I'm hurt.
Well, fine then. I see how it is, Albert. I'm going to throw out Reed Shepard here. I think that this team could use the shooting help that he provides. I think that he's someone who, especially given how Alperen Şengün, future Hall of Famer, as Tyler Metcalf would say, Alperen Şengün, he sort of leads the Houston offense, or did last year. I think having an incredible off-ball shooter like Reed would really help to open up the Houston offense more. And they're a team that could potentially have playoff hopes next year, and to add someone who can complement the rest of their players offensively like Reed, I think would be a huge get for them.
Well, I'm also going to go with Reed. That's 2. Metcalf.
3.
4.
There it is.
Done. Oh, Rowan.
5.
Sign language.
I'm with you. Yeah.
He's a really, really fun fit. I mean, all of that athleticism to kind of cover for, anything he might lack, even though he's a great athlete, as evidenced by, his vertical, which we see on shot blocking attempts. So it's actually stuff he uses in the game. Okay.
He's a nasty passer too. Especially if when Amen and Cam and Tari and Jabari get out and run in transition, he's arguably the best outlet passer in this class. And then even in the half court, just that ability to find backdoor cutters and stuff out of the pick and roll even. And he would rock with Houston.
He would rock spacing so much too. I love that pick.
He really would. All right. San Antonio is on the clock. Maxwell.
This is where it gets fun.
Back to you.
I despise this pick. Like I said earlier, my top tier is 3 guys. So I'm going to be a little open to whatever once we get into this tier. Personally, I think the way I would go here is I don't even know.
You want to.
My gut says Dalton Connect, and it's going to make everybody really
I knew it.
That's my gut. My gut is take Dalton Connect. You believe in him and love him more than your own family. So no, I really just think they need the shooting. I lean toward the shooters here. So I look at him, I look at Risache, even though I know he's kind of boring. I even look at Devin Carter in this year. I really like Devin Carter. I think he's that sneaky false ceiling guy in this year's class, between the athleticism, what he's going to open up for them defensively. He doesn't really fix the point guard problem, which it would be my reservation with him, is you're always going to be sacrificing a little something on the length front, most likely, if you're going to be playing him at the 2. But yeah, my gut says Dalton Connect, which I know is not going to be the pick, but that's what my heart says.
Well, we love your passion about Dalton. All right, let's go back to Rowan, because I saw him blink, which means he's not frozen.
Yep, I've escaped my frozen in time. I think at 4, Castle makes too much sense for myself, looking at my own board. This Spurs team has the hardest thing they need to find, which is their moon, their sun, what they're going to follow with Wemby. Everything else on the roster is not set in stone, and you could do a lot worse than adding who I think is one of the best perimeter defenders in this class, someone who brings really great positional size. Castle has those shooting concerns, but for me, I think that there are other places that they can find that spacing that they need. It's a lot harder to find a guy who's Castle's size, who can do the things that he does, and he's shown that he's willing to play different roles. He did so at UConn this year. So he's going to be what that team needs. And I don't think they can wait. They have 2 picks there in the top 8. I'm not sure he'd be there, even if it's just in what we would do. I don't know if he's going to be there at 8. And so based on how I rate him, I think he's a pretty clear player that I'd want for San Antonio here.
I will echo that. I think Stephen Castle rocks. I mean, I think the player, and some people in the chat have mentioned he wasn't a point guard at UConn, which is fine, because there aren't a ton of pure point guards left in the league. I feel like the pure point guard is mostly reserved for backups who come in like need to run the offense when your star initiator is resting for 6 minutes a game. But he can do that. He can initiate offense and run really smooth pick and rolls, and he has good vision. But then he can do all the wing stuff. And you just need a team to get his confidence up as a shooter and let him shoot it at volume. And we saw him do that a lot more in high school. And you can't always trust that to translate, but sometimes it does. But defensively, absolute monster. I mean, him, Devin Vassell, Wemby, Sohan, like defensively is fantastic. I think Sohan's probably going to end up ultimately the odd man out eventually, unless they move him in some kind of bench role. But Wemby is just a game breaker, so I'm not really that affected by Castle not being a shooter at the moment, because I think he does everything so well outside of that one thing. And I think his form is fine. And he's 6'7", like in shoes. Like he's just really good. Metcalf, you mentioned him a little bit before. Is he a pick here?
Yeah, it'd be an easy pick for me, especially with 2 picks in the top 8. I think one of them needs to be a home run swing, and I don't think there's a better home run swing in this entire draft than Castle. I gave my spiel on him earlier, but at 8, I think that's where you can really look to more so fill a need, and taking someone like Risache, who I really like, just kind of feels like settling for a 3-and-D wing. But I think you can get a lot of shooting at 8, depending on however the board falls. After this pick, it'd still be Risache, Connect, McCain, De Silva, Carter, Carrington, Dillingham, Buzelis, if you buy a shooting, still on the board potentially. So I think 4 has to be the biggest home run swing, and for me, that's Castle.
I feel like Castle's kind of like floor is a ground rule double.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think his floor. I hate saying this. I hate doing the being down on the
You
guy
love
thing.
it.
I think the floor is Jarrett Culver with confidence.
Wow.
I think there's some scary outcomes here.
I mean, if Jared
He is a
Culver
really bad
had
shooter.
literally 2% confidence, he would have stuck in the league.
Sure, and that's like why I have him 10. You know what I
You
mean?
guys haven't been
I'm
watching
lower
Jared
on
Culver film in the
Castle.
G League, have you?
No, but the flashes
Sure.
and the situation he was in was
It was
pretty
the whole thing
atrocious.
was bizarre. I don't think Castle is gonna sort of mentally break in the way that Culver did.
Castle's also like a
good
way better ball handler than Jack Culver was,
Sure. Yeah, I think
which is
for me,
meaningful.
Yeah, I ultimately view him as like a blend between Isaac Okoro and Jayshawn Tate. I feel like that's the type of player he is, and I think that's a really good player. I just have a really hard time getting to higher end outcomes with him.
Wow.
That's my spiel. I'm just putting it out there. I think he will be a good NBA player. I don't see the star stuff with him.
Well, that's way different than Jarrett Culver, who's not a good NBA player.
No, and I'm saying that's the floor. To me, I think there is a world where he is a really bad outside shooter, and it limits his ability to even be a consistent rotation player. I think that is an outcome that is on the table for him, even with the defense and the passing.
I think he could shoot 28% and be a really valuable player still.
28's really low. That's really low. It's the thing is now with
Is it
how
Buzelis?
much shooting there is.
I was
in
just
the
about
NBA.
to say that, Corey.
with how much shooting there is in the NBA now, if you are sub 6'8", it is just so hard to find lineups to play you in if you're not going to shoot and you're not an elite athlete. And I don't think he's in that tier athletically.
See, here's my thing with athleticism. I think this leads to a bigger philosophical point. He's just wildly agile, and strong and able to absorb contact. I think that, I think his athleticism is way more functional than Ron Holland's. Ron Holland is on 2 times speed on a podcast player, while you're listening to a 1.2 sped up a little bit, just enough to actually still understand what you're hearing with Castle. I think he plays under control. He can definitely get up. I think he's a phenomenal athlete, and I think that's probably one of the spots where we kind of differ, but we do have 3 votes for him.
Yeah, just to touch on that, Castle's athletic testing at the combine was almost exactly the same as Holland's, where his max vert was 1 inch less, his lane agility was 10.93 to 11.1, and their shuttle was the exact same. He had the exact same vert as Alex Sarr. Better lane, better shuttle. Like Collier, better vert, slightly worse lane, exact same shuttle. So it's like if you think those guys are awesome athletes, testing wise, and obviously that's testing in an empty gym is different, but testing wise they're the exact same.
Yeah, well, that's been part of my gripe with Holland too. Is I think Holland's a good athlete and not like a really good athlete, not a great one.
Can't wait for that discussion, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, I would personally be deciding between Risache and Castle here, but I think I'm the highest remaining guy on Risache, so I'm perfectly happy to give a fourth vote for Castle here.
Okay. So let's take Steph Castle to the San Antonio Spurs. National champion. Another one off the board. All right. That means the Detroit Pistons are up. Albert, what direction would you personally head if you were the Detroit Pistons?
Okay, if I were the Pistons, and the board actually fell this way, which, hey, could happen. I'm not saying it will, but it could. Anything's possible, right? I think for me, it has to be Risache. I looked at Connect here. Did not look at Buzelis. I know everyone's mocking Buzelis to Detroit, but Detroit, they need shooting. So that's, not the choice. Risache, please, would be my pick here. 6'10", shoot the ball, right? And I know, like, it's got to be a little bit more consistent, but I think it will be. The defensive stuff with him, I think is going to be great. And something we've talked a lot about, we actually got to see Risache play in person over a year ago, right, at the Nike Hoop Summit. And when he was there, he was gigantic, but we could tell he had a lot of work to do. And I think he did a lot of that work in France. I think he's a much improved player. And I think if this is how it goes and he's available there at 5, I think Detroit would be really smart to go and get him because he just makes sense and they need shooting and he's gigantic. I don't think
he
it's
is
that
big. They do need shooting.
What if I told you that on the board there's Dalton Connect, who can also really shoot the ball, but also can dribble the ball and get to the rim by himself and occasionally run a little bit of pick and roll. Like I
believe he
just,
had a positive assist to turnover ratio as well.
He did, which he improved upon from his time at Northern Colorado. So he made strides as a playmaker. I know a lot of people are really tripped up with the defense with him, but Tennessee's defense wasn't actually any worse with him on or off the court. I will also say his block and steal rate's grayed out fine. He's a really good athlete. I think the defense is going to end up being okay when he can actually devote time to it. But if I'm Detroit, I'm just desperately looking to add shooting because I think it is the thing they need to get this thing off of the floor. We could talk about high ceiling guys with them, but right now they are so in the mud that they just need to get out of it. And that's why I think Risache is a good pick here. I think Connect is a good pick here. I just think with Connect, there is a real ball skill thing. There's a real physicality to him. He was a really good rebounder at Northern Colorado, and that was more of his role. His usage was absurd. He had higher usage than Zion and Trey Young, and some of these guys that had crazy usage rates in college. So I really think the defense is going to be better than people expect. But they just desperately need guys to open up the floor for them. And I think he's ready to do that right now. And I think he's got more on-ball juice than Risache has and may ever have.
Getting it out the mud, you say, Maxwell?
Yeah.
Can I interest anyone in a Devin Carter?
Oof.
Now, look, does he fit this roster? Of course not. Do I think that anybody on this roster deserves to be there outside of Cade? No. Of course not.
So, that's fair.
For me, this is the kind of pick that, to me, new front office could be a complete reset around Cade Cunningham. And why not go with an absolute dog, maybe the best athlete in the class, plus 7 wingspan, range for days, even though I'm a little lower on his shooting, and is going to be somebody who you can actually build a culture with and is a two-way guy. I'm going to go Devin Carter here. Metcalf, you're up.
Yeah, I'm sprinting to the podium, and I submitted Zachary Risache's name 10 minutes ago. He is easily the best guy or highest guy on my board. I like Dalton Connect a lot. I like Devin Carter a lot. Both of them are in my top 10. But I think how much we saw Risache improve as a shooter from last summer throughout this year on a sample size of 65 games and 243 point attempts. I tend to believe that the 39.5% is pretty freaking real. So, yeah, that plus the defense, just how much more is there left for him to improve on at his age, given the immense amount of growth that we saw over this last year? Upside swing, shooter, defender, size, length. This is super easy for me.
But the chat wants to know if Risache is a dog, Metcalf.
Sure, yeah. He played a lot
Nick.
and was really freaking good.
Plays
Nick,
hard.
you're up.
I mean, Metcalf said most of what I was going to say. It's Risache pretty clearly for me. I think that we've mocked Dalton Connect to the Pistons before, and it makes a lot of sense for them to, pick up a shooter with his sort of all-around offensive game. But I think in all of those cases, Risache was not on the board and available for them here. So if I'm picking between the two of them and Devin Carter, it's Risache for me pretty clearly.
Metcalf, this might speak to your heart. Gregory Castillo in the chat says Antonio Reeves.
Mm.
Way cheaper Dalton.
Yeah, Gregory's been listening all year. Big fan. He gets it.
I would feel really good if I felt like Antonio Reeves had picked up a weight at one point in the last 7 years of his college career.
Don't need to be
a
strong
late
when
growth
no one
spurt
can
guy,
catch you.
just different.
I believe that is 3 for Zachary Risache, which means the Detroit Pistons have another French prospect for the fan
don't
base.
word it like that.
Well, am I wrong? Do they?
No, it's your tone. It's your tone. You know what you're doing.
I couldn't possibly know what you mean by that. At number 6, the Charlotte Hornets are on the clock. Ended up with Brandon Miller. Controversial decision last year over Scoot Henderson. What do they follow that move up with?
Say it. Say it, Corey. Say it again. It's the right choice.
Devin Carter.
There it is. There it is.
Talk to me, Albert.
Okay, so for me, it's as simple as this, right? If this is the board, they've got LaMelo in place. They got Brandon Miller in place, right? Like a lot of the teams at the top of the draft right now, they haven't done a lot of winning, right? Devin Carter, as everyone is chiming in the chat right now, is an absolute dog. Add a dog like that next to LaMelo and Brandon Miller, and I think he's just going to accentuate the things that they're good at. He'll come in, be an absolute nightmare defender, right? As you've mentioned, right? And also, what a freak of a rebounder as a guard at his size, just unreal. And all that is, we want to talk about that dog mentality. How about a guard going averaging 9 rebounds a game? That's a dog. That's pretty damn good, right? But the type of mentality he'd come, the culture shift type of stuff that you could talk about, I just think he'd be an unbelievable fit. Obviously, I think the one thing people will be like, well, can he shoot? Well, I think he's improved a lot as a shooter, a big time. He's taken a lot of them. We did the pod on him, and we talked about how, maybe he's not like the purest shooter, but he's a shot maker. And I think that's good enough, right? And I think just overall, bringing in a guy like that to shift the culture of a team like Charlotte and the young pieces that they have, I think that's more than a validation to take a guy like Devin Carter at this point in the draft. And I know a lot of people are going to say it's high. I just don't see it that way. I think he's that good and he'll be that impactful that it's worth taking a shot on him at this point in the draft.
Maxwell, you were shaking your head. You were nodding your head up and down.
Yeah.
Are you on
Albert
Team
could.
Devin Carter here?
Yeah, absolutely. I second everything Albert said, and I'm right there with him on the shot. I know that the percentage prior to this year wasn't good, but you see a guy take that many on that high volume, hit that percentage with that type of range, and it's hard not to buy it. I'm right there with you. I keep my running like analytics database of stats on guys that have stuck in the league. Devin Carter was at least solid or above in every single guard category that I have. And he had numerous in which he was like outlier great, like rebounding or like fantastic at others. Like he is going to be a pro. He fits this roster like a glove. He can take whatever the hardest guard assignment is. This is another like dribble, pass, shoot guy in this lineup. And I love that next to LaMelo and Brandon Miller, like the playmaking stuff, which I'm a little leery of with his game, like that's going to be like much less of a problem on a team like this. I adore this fit. I'm sprinting to the podium. I'm right behind Albert.
Yeah, his role is more like a wing on this team, like an off-ball wing who can do some stuff with the ball in his hands. And talking about the outlier stuff, like we're gonna get real nerdy. I found like the averages for multiple statistical categories from guards over the last 6 years who have stuck in the NBA that were drafted, and then I found the standard deviation for these categories, and Devin Carter was 3 standard deviations above the mean for rebounding, which he's the only prospect that managed to get 3 standard deviations for anything. So very outlier rebounding from the guard spot for him. That's 3. We did lose Rowan, which would put us at a win here. But does anybody have any other names they'd like to nominate who hasn't spoken yet?
Carter was one of like 4 names that I'd be good with here. But it just like when talking about competitiveness and culture and them just needing an adult in the room, Carter's probably at the top of the list for me. And I worry a lot less about my shooting concerns with him because, like you guys mentioned, it's going to be mostly spot up stuff and not absurd double team 30-foot fadeaways that he has to generate after dribbling for 25 seconds because the offense can't do anything.
All right. The Charlotte Hornets have won themselves a Devin Carter, which means that the Trailblazers of Portland are on the clock. The team that has carpet for jerseys. What do we got, Albert?
This is a tough one with the way that the board fell, but damn. I mean, they can't just have like 40 guys that are 6'8" and can't shoot. So we got to figure something out here.
Well, they could.
They could.
Yeah.
You're right.
They do
You
now.
know what, man?
They could take Matas.
They absolutely could, but I don't want that for them. I want to give them some shooting. I want to give them a guy that, well, Maxwell, you're gonna love this. Dalton Connect. Let's go. Let's do it here. I think he firmly should be going in the top 10, and I won't waste any more time because Maxwell did a great job of breaking him down. My pick here is Dalton Connect.
Nicholas.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree with Albert's earlier assessment. I think this is very easy. The Portland Trailblazers were dead last in the NBA in three-point percentage last season. They were 28th in three-point makes, and one of the best shooters in the draft is still on the board for them here with Dalton Connect. I think that they should be sprinting to the podium to get him if this is how the board falls.
I would also like to vote for Mr. Connect. And that gives us 4. I don't think Maxwell spoke, but I just read his aura.
You know the deal. Yeah.
You know what it is.
Don't have to ask.
Yeah, Dalton Connect, man. What a story. What a story for that kid, man. All right, number 8, the Spurs back on the clock. They took Steph Castle with the 4th pick. Now they have a chance to do some damage with the 8th pick. Tyler Metcalf of Stephen Castle fame. Who would you like to pair him with?
I'm going to throw out 2 names, both shooters, both scorers, Rob Dillingham and Jared McCain.
Well, we're only allowed to take 1.
Well, I know, and that's where I'm at right now. So I haven't decided. So if someone is set on a name, those are 2 that I have proposed to the group.
I love Dillingham here.
Yeah,
same.
I think Dillingham's starting to become underrated.
Agreed.
And I'm well aware of how he measured. Like, doesn't weigh a lot, not very long. I just wonder if people who are scared off by that actually watched him play at all and had eyeballs to watch. Because if you did, you'd be like, oh, here's a guy who doesn't weigh a lot and also doesn't have a long wingspan.
Mm-hmm.
But he also shot 45% from 3, was the best dribble pull-up shooter. I think his assist percentage was somewhere around 30.
Yeah.
Like, made really smart connective reads throughout the year. was like bought into like the 0.5 stuff, but could go get you a bucket if he needed to. Very clearly should have been starting with Reed Shepherd. And like now you're surrounding him with Stephen Castle, Devin Vassell, and Victor Wembanyama. Like I think you can survive more so than other teams. I'm going to go with Rob Dillingham here.
So could I make the McCain case?
Of course you
the
can.
guys that I have in my board left here are that are like in this tier are Cody, Ron, and Modest, which I know like this is not the crowd to pitch those guys too. But yeah, so the McCain
talking
case,
to Cody.
I think the McCain case comes down to we love like the idea of what Rob does as a shooter. McCain was also a really good shooter. If you dig deep into Rob's numbers, his performances against the really good teams that they played were quite a bit worse, where that wasn't the case with McCain. McCain's going to give you more as a rebounder, even though he also like similarly didn't measure super well, like length and like standing reach and vertical wise. He is a little bit meatier. So as far as like dealing with screens and things like that in the playoffs, he might be in a little bit better position, even if he's not as quick. And I'm pretty optimistic about the passing, given like the dual-handed, like live dribble ambidextrous stuff that we saw. So like, if I'm making this pick and those are the two guys, I wonder like, if I have Victor, I'm hoping to compete in the playoffs sooner rather than later. And I'm not saying that you want to like overlook what Rob's ceiling could be at some point, the fact that he could fill out his frame. But I wonder if Jared McCain might just be better suited to playoff basketball when we're talking about a scoring-oriented guard.
I think that's totally fair. I mean, I think we're all big Jared McCain fans here.
Mm-hmm.
Meteor sounds like a word that you got straight out of the Albert Body Dictionary.
Yeah.
The lexicon of Albert's body descriptions.
Shouts to Harrison Ingram. I just want to say really quickly. So I actually have McCain above Dillingham on my big board, but
same tier for me.
I like Dillingham here, and the reason is my rationale is as simple as this. I think like their limitations are really similar, actually. But the thing with Dillingham that I really enjoyed and I was surprised with this season was, as Corey mentioned before, his ability to play with Reed Shepherd. I felt like the synergy that they had and how they were kind of feeding off of each other, both playing on and off ball. I really like that. And with Dillingham, like I just feel like he's going to have an easier time like getting his shot off than McCain, is my opinion. So I'm going to go Rob here. Although I think the point, like everything that you said, Maxwell, is like so good. And it's tough. We're kind of splitting hairs here, but I think the deciding factor for me is just I think Rob's gonna be able to go get a bucket whenever he wants.
Yeah, the separation, like in the footwork, is quite a bit different.
Yeah, that water bug type of fidgetiness that he has. I love all that. So yeah, I'll go Dillingham here.
Okay, so Team NBA Draft Show is Dillingham, Maxwell is McCain, Metcalf, McCain, Eminem.
No, I'll go Dillingham.
Oh,
okay.
All right.
There it is.
Okay. Rob Dillingham to the San Antonio Spurs.
Like he's awful on defense, but you know what makes that a lot more easy to hide? Victor Wembanyama.
But that too.
It does. It does. Game breaker is what they're calling him. The 9th pick, the Memphis Grizzlies now are on the clock. Nick, what direction would you go for Memphis?
This is where things start to get icky for me. I think that the two names that I would throw out first would be, I know that Corey is loading his Zaire Williams take, but I would say Cody Williams here might be someone who they take as sort of a longer term project. This is a team that, barring literally repeating the worst injury luck in NBA history, they're going to be a lot better next year. They can afford to take someone who might take a little bit longer to come around. He's someone who, the volume is very small on the shooting, but I buy into it. I buy into his offensive IQ. I buy into his feel for the game. The other name I would throw out is Buzelis. I think, it's almost, I know Maxwell was going to love that one. It's almost the opposite case in a way, in that I think with Buzelis, if he sort of hits his maximum upside, then he could be someone who I think is more likely than Cody to bump the Grizzlies up a level. But given where the Grizzlies are at, I think I would probably lean Cody over Modest, but I don't really like any of the choices for them here. Honestly, the player who's highest on my board is actually Nikola Topic, but I just don't think he makes very much sense for Memphis. And especially after last season, I don't think they want to draft someone who's coming into the league with injury concerns. So I would say probably Cody, but those are sort of the three names that I would have. And I'd put either of the forwards ahead of Topic just in terms of how they'd fit for Memphis.
Well, they do have enough shooting on that team to insulate Modest being in the lineup. So can I offer Maxwell a Zach Edey?
Oh, you know the way to my heart, Corey, to get around me pitching Modest Buzelis. I would be interested in Zach Edey here. My gut just says Modest, though, because I think he brings a lot of nice stuff. Like, he's just a little bit extra length, another lob target. They've got enough shooting that can, take its time to come around. I would go Modest, but I don't hate Edey.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Edey too. Shouts to Swish Theory. They dropped a piece on Zach Edey today, 10,000 words. I got to maybe 2,000, and my ADHD couldn't handle it. But that's a me problem. I like Edey here. They need size. He's a giant. We've talked so much about Edey, Corey, and I just think he makes sense here. They could use a center. He makes a lot of sense. Ridiculously productive in college. I'm going to say it again, is absolutely gigantic. And I think that's important, right? He's such an outlier with his size and what he offers both on both ends of the floor because of his size. I'm not saying he's going to come in and play, 35, 40 minutes a night. But just having him as an option on this roster, I think makes a lot of sense. So I'll go Edey here.
Metcalf.
I'm going to throw out Jared. I'd go Jared McCain. I would rather not pay Luke Kennard $14 million next year, so I would decline that option and bring in someone younger and who I think is just as good, if not a better shooter, better rebounder, healthier. Yeah, I would go McCain or even Tristan Da Silva over Edey. Or
are you limiting McCain to a bench role?
Well, I mean, he's going to be a rookie for a team that's going to have
3 years from now.
That's going to no, because who knows what happens with roster construction and extensions and all that kind of stuff. So,
everyone's been very well behaved.
If I was McCain coming in off the bench as my backup point guard or starting shooting guard, maybe now if McCain really hits, now you can move Desmond Bane for a better center or something like that. So I just think it gives them more flexibility and depth at the guard spot, which they struggled with.
McCain and Bane, a lot of stockiness there.
A lot of just two meaty dudes.
So Metcalf's a McCain vote. Nick was a Cody vote.
Yeah. I'm uncomfortable with it, but yeah.
Well, there's a lot of talk of meatiness, so I think we're all a little uncomfortable. Maxwell, you went.
I was a Modest vote. Yeah,
you were a Modest vote. So
I would be willing to switch to Cody if it does anything.
Oh.
That would mean that Metcalf would then have to tie break. Edey versus Cody.
I'll go Edey. I like Cody better. He's higher on my board, but
Same.
I'm not sure I like him in terms of developmental there. I think he needs to play.
I see how he's Metcalf.
Zach Edey and his screen setting proficiency, getting Ja Morant downhill and setting off-ball screens for Desmond Bane to fly off of. That sounds pretty fun, Maxwell.
It does. I like it.
Number 10. The Utah Jazz are on the clock.
Has to be modest, right?
Dear God.
Not if they're following my personal account like they were last year.
Can I throw out the second youngest player in this draft who everyone had as like a top 3 pick for most of the year in Nikola Topic?
You sure
I
can.
will second that for sure.
What about the other really young guy, Ron
And I will
Holland,
third it.
that I like a lot?
I like the guy who is better.
I like the guy who is super athletic and his leg works, and he stuffs the stat sheet. And this is a team that already has a lot of shooting up and down the positional spectrum, so he can kind of get away with that being an issue right now. And I don't have to worry about him on defense.
Which
Wait,
guy
Max,
was
you
that?
said
Because
Ron
he
Holland?
was really awful
Yeah.
on defense this year.
Yeah, I think that's like just from a tool standpoint, he's going to be in a much better place than Topic. He's a much better defensive playmaker at this stage. And I think like they'll be able to shore up the technical stuff pretty easily with him.
Max, I'm sorry, I missed who you. were
Ron
talking about.
Holland.
Ron
Yeah.
Holland.
Oh God!
I just can't
Shore up the
imagine.
technical stuff.
I just can't imagine
Ron
Danny
Holland?
Ainge being like, "Give me Ron Holland." You know what I'm saying?
No,
Like,
yeah.
I get the point you're making, Maxwell, but
This is the guy that drafted Jaylen Brown. And I'm always the guy that says, like, hey, don't compare him to Jaylen Brown. But we've seen him like take these swings before.
We have.
Right, but he's not in this draft room. We are.
That's true. That's true.
good point.
And I'm they call me the next Danny Ainge, taking Ron Holland. I'm kidding.
They call you the next Danny Ainge because you're a 6'4" white guy, Maxwell. Let's not mince words here.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the idea of Ron with like, they've got so many bites at the apple still to come. They've got shooting up and down the lineup. It's just like a jolt of energy and chaos, and you hope it works out. And if it doesn't, you've got 500 draft picks in the future. Like, I'd much rather do that than like kind of, I don't know, err on the side of caution. But I've never been as big on the Topic upside as a lot of our crew. So that's worth bearing in mind.
Oh, I mean, if we're looking for a wing that can get downhill, I'd rather just let Topic be that guy. One of them actually finished in the half court. Albert, who's your pick?
Yeah. No. This is tough, dude. If it's between the two, easy one for me, it's Topage. If those are the only two we're gonna consider. God, this is tough, actually. Jesus.
It's a weird
Actually, no. What am I saying? Topage is 5th on my board. I'm good with Topage.
All right. Nikola Topic. 2. The Utah Jazz. Who heard him talk today for the first time?
That was wild. I was not prepared.
He sounds like a mountain guy.
He rocks. Yeah, I know that final boards are submitted, but I almost went back in and moved him up a little bit after that. I was like, I like that. That guy's not going to let people walk all over him.
Look, our final board is submitted for our website, but
That's true.
theoretically, if you wanted to post something on Twitter, there's still time up until I think 8 p.m. tomorrow for you to tinker with your board. All right.
Chad Ford style, there's still time 5 years from now for everybody to.
The Chicago Bulls are on the clock at pick 11. Albert, what should Chicago do if you were running that team? They're set at point guard now, so.
Oh God. Are they?
Mhm.
Are they, Corey? Are they?
Probably for a while after the extension that comes.
Dear God.
They
Dear
could
God,
trade
that's
this pick
so
for the
rough.
other Jalen Williams.
Which one? The one in the draft or the one
Tall
playing?
one. Yeah.
Corey, how do you feel about 6'8" wing, can shoot the ball, an adult, played
Oh, I can't.
No, he's an adult. I think he'll bring some stability. I think he's a guy who's like a really good cutter. Guy who's pretty big for his position. I'm thinking Tristan Da Silva. I want to throw him in there, just in the conversation. Just because, dude, at this point, like with the way that our boards are going and the picks that we've made, this is getting pretty gnarly. And I'm actually going to defer to Corey as the Bulls fan here. But I just wanted to throw him up there because I think he's an interesting option. And I think also he might go at this range. So wanted to throw Tristan da Silva.
I mean, for me personally, if I was making this decision, like I would take Bub Carrington.
Oh.
I would have taken Bub a while ago, probably. And I think Bub would be able to play with the Australian guy that they traded for. So that's what I would do. I would also, because I don't think he would have a whole lot of momentum in this discussion, they most certainly are going to continue to need shooting. So I would even talk about Jared McCain here. And I would be pretty cool with Cody Williams as well.
Out of that group, Cody is like the only guy I would be interested in. Like, I think this team just needs like guys with size who are not bad desperately. They desperately need that. And they've always skewed so guard heavy the last few years. Like, I would just kill for a guy with some size who can do some stuff and like is constantly playing hard. And
are you talking about Tristan da Silva too now?
No,
that's what I'm saying.
I would go Ron. I would go Cody. I would go Modest. I would go.
Hold on,
I would go
Maxwell.
any of these guys.
Let's talk about just first of all, if the Bulls drafted Ron Holland, I seriously would get rid of all of the Bulls merchandise that I own except for my Kirk Heinrich authentic jersey.
I get it.
But can you imagine how terrible? Which maybe is a good thing because Cooper Flagg's in the draft next year,
and you need to keep your pick.
Can you imagine Josh Giddey and Ron Holland and how much anti-gravity that team would have with Nikola Vucevic at the helm? Just what a chef's kiss move that would be. I would leave the stream tomorrow is what I would do.
I just want to say I love Cody Williams, but also he's not ready to be like a legit shooter right now.
No.
But again, maybe this is good because the Bulls need to be bad.
They need to be a bottom 9 team in the league next year.
San Antonio owns their pick otherwise for the DeRozan trade, who is a unrestricted free agent, and we'll see.
So
if they can sign him.
I go project forward here every single time, like partially for that, but also just because like your team needs one.
I like Cody a lot. I'm pretty cool with Cody because I think he's a good upside swing, and I think when he didn't have a busted face and busted ankle, he was like pretty awesome.
I saw him play his best game, one of his best games against UCLA. I thought he was awesome. Really good. Nick,
what do you think the Bulls should do?
I mean, I think of the names we've said so far, Cody would be at or near the top of my list. It's funny because I feel like Maxwell and I are on the Modest Buzelis train just purely because I'm not as down on him as the three of you are. And I don't think that says anything about me particularly loving Modest Buzelis as a prospect, but I think of the names we've said so far, Cody Williams makes the most sense.
We'll get to Buzelis at a certain, I need to say it now.
I love him.
Unless Buzelis is going to end up winning this, and then I'll have to say it now. So I think
it's going to, yeah.
Cody's
I think Cody's gonna
Cody. I like the long-term play of Cody.
Okay. I would be happy with that. Cody Williams, Dalen Terry. What great lineups they can roll out there.
Julian Phillips, Drummond and Vooch.
Dalen
Terry at the one. Dalen Terry at the one.
Yeah. They could have traded him at the deadline, but they decided like, wow, let's get the play-in game. All right. So with the 12th pick, the Oklahoma City Thunder are on the clock. Metcalf.
Oh boy. Tristan da Silva.
Okay. Tell me why.
Really like
Backstreet Boys.
Just guys with really high IQ. Does a bit of everything. I know he doesn't necessarily fit their rebounding issues, but I don't think anyone at this point really does, even though Jared McCain's an awesome rebounder for a guard. Phenomenal team defender, defensive versatility, really smart player, just constantly makes the right decision and executes, dribble, pass, shoot on offense. Just one of those guys I think you can plug into pretty much any lineup in the league, and he's going to make them better.
Is everyone else more worried about the rebounding than the Thunder are?
I
For
think so,
sure.
yeah.
Seems like it.
But if you did want to address it, Modest Buzelis averaged about 12.5 boards over the last
Don't you
month and
dare.
a half of the G League season.
How many possessions did they play in that 48-minute game?
712.
So we have one for Tristan da Silva, who is the player that I think Modest hopes he can be one day. Nick.
I mean, I would say either Da Silva or Jared McCain. So if I had to pick one, McCain is slightly higher on my board, so I'd go with him. I mean, it's not exactly an area of need for the team that had the best 3-point percentage in the league last year, but they were also in the bottom half of the league in attempts. If you have McCain coming off the bench as a shooter who can, also be sort of a secondary playmaker, I think that makes a lot of sense. I'd be perfectly happy to switch to Da Silva, but I think I'll vote McCain.
Isaiah Joe is he next year? I think he's coming up.
Yeah.
So they might need to replace that shooting.
Yeah, he has an option for. Oh no, next year's his last year. Yeah.
Yeah. So they might be thinking about shooting potentially and replacing that. So you were going with who?
McCain, but if it comes down to a tiebreaker, I'll happily switch to Da Silva.
All right. Well, let's figure that out when the time comes. Albert.
Love Da Silva, but also, God, it's the Thunder. This point in the draft, maybe they take a swing for the fences. This is just a my guy type of thing. Keyshawn George, 6'8", can really shoot, secondary playmaking. Just throwing him out there. I know people hate it. I get it. I think it's interesting. I love him to death, so I'll continue to throw his name out there. But, okay. Is it crazy? No, I won't do it. It may be too crazy.
Do it.
Too crazy.
You gotta
We're
do
an
it.
hour
You
in,
can't say that
Albert,
and
just
not
go
do
for
it.
it.
Considering the rebounding stuff we talked about, right? And he won't be relied upon from day one to do what about the Kel'el Ware discussion? And I know some of you guys hate it, but just want to throw him out there to talk about him.
I think
I
it's
like
like
Kel'el
a
Ware.
hair too rich for me, and I like him.
Okay.
But I think it's a little too rich.
I'm in the same exact boat.
My vote is for Modest Buzelis.
Wow, I'm stunned. Stunned to hear that from you.
I'd
And my
also
vote
vote
is
for
for-
Ron Holland.
And my vote is for
Did
Bub
someone say Ron
Carrington.
Holmes?
So
All right,
do we
so
have
who do we
5
got? Is
different players?
We
I
do.
think we do.
Who did Metcalf say?
Da Silva.
Da Silva. Yeah, shit.
Well, I said my tiebreaker vote would be for Da Silva, so I guess I'll flip to the Metcalf camp as much as it hurts my soul.
I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that too. I love Da Silva.
Shot myself in the foot because now the Kings are up and I can't say Da Silva.
All right. So Tristan da Silva. He is a dribble pass shoot wing. I like Da Silva. Da Silva's gonna be a good player.
He's fine.
That was interesting.
You saying he's fine under your breath after throwing out Modest Buzelis, who can't shoot for shit?
That's more than fair. That's more than fair. I get it. I get people that don't buy it.
All right, Sacramento King. I nominate Modest Buzelis.
Yeah, me too. We can
Nick.
cut.
Monk is back.
Yes, thank
We're gonna
God.
draft the Monk replacement here.
Who are you nominating?
Wow, this is gnarly.
I mean, Buzelis is the highest on my board. I know that my personal affection for Deron Holmes is a bit rich for 13, but I want to say his name anyway. It's tough because Modest can't shoot. Ron definitely can't shoot, but the Kings were a lot more of a defensive focused team over the last couple months of the season when Keon Ellis entered the starting lineup. And I mean, I do like Ron's defensive playmaking. That's sort of my highest, the skill of his that I'm the most bought in on. But yeah, this is not the way that the Kings would like the board to fall. Is McCain still on the board?
He is.
Yep.
He is.
Bring him home.
Yeah, let's do that. Bring Jared McCain home to Sacramento.
Maxwell, go for it.
You already know. It's my guy, Modest Bazelis.
Can
Actually, you know what? I think I would really consider Saloon here. Just because I think like the high flying motor stuff like fits kind of well, even if I think Modest is like a more polished and better player. I wonder if schematically Saloon might have some more juice.
I mean, definitely the thing I'm most sold on with Solon is the sort of catch and shoot stuff, and that's basically the entirety of what he'll do if he's drafted by the Kings. They'll just stick him on the wing and basically do what they did with Keegan Murray for the first few months of his rookie season, and have him out there basically just purely a catch and shoot guy and hope that he figures out enough on defense to not be terrible. And I mean, Keegan got to that point, sort of second half of year one, and by year two, he was basically the Kings defensive stopper, which I think makes it easier to slide any other forward in there. And definitely the biggest need for them is forward with size, I would say. So yeah, I feel dumb for having flipped my vote to De Silva because he's the one that by far makes the most sense for the Kings here, other than, my personal affection for Duron Holmes, but I think it's a bit rich for him. And if we're picking between forwards, there's, might as well get the mystery box guy who at least can be a catch and shoot guy, and everything else he'll figure out.
Do you want a mystery box that could shoot? Can I offer you a Keyshawn George?
I wouldn't mind that either. I mean, I'm just more worried about his defense and sort of size. Like Keegan would essentially have to become the full-time power forward if Keyshawn George is the pick. And maybe it's a thing where, Keyshawn comes off the bench behind Harrison Barnes in year one, and maybe the Kings trade Harrison Barnes at the trade deadline. Maybe they, move on from him at the end of next season. I don't mind it, but I think I would want a bulkier forward if I were the Kings.
I know that Saloon smoked a bunch of layups this year, but I do also think that with the cutting element of the Kings offense, I would worry about the speed with George, the speed and the lift with him inside.
Sure.
Yeah. Saloon, I'm not really worried about the layup stuff's not good. I'm not, but he dunks a lot. So
Yep, exactly. Yeah, he had 60 dunks or something like that. So it's not the end of the world.
He'll dunk a lot and leave a lot of rebounds for Domantas Sabonis. That's perfect.
He's allowed to dunk in the NBA next year, I think. Not sure of the rules. Albert, who's your vote?
I think of those names, I feel good with Salon. Yeah. And it's weird. We haven't talked about it much till now, which I get, I understand, but at the same time, still weird. But I think at this, right here at this point in the draft, I don't have a problem with it. He plays really damn hard. And I think NBA teams like that. So
good frame.
Crazy frame. 7'3" wingspan on him.
Yeah. But
if we're going back to the dog discussion, the Kings
exactly
need the dogs.
Exactly. I'm good with Solon.
Is that 3 for Solon?
Sounds like it.
All right. Another French guy off the board. Great night for that country. The Blazers are back on the clock. They took Dalton Connect with the 7th pick. Is this going to be the Maxwell draft?
I would take Modest around here, obviously. Those are the guys that I have quite a bit higher than everyone else. I'm fine with either one of those.
I have Modest quite a bit higher than Ron, and I think that he would be my choice for the pick here. I would maybe consider Jared McCain for the same reason that I said that they should sprint to the board to draft Dalton Connect. Namely, they desperately need shooting. But at a certain point, I mean, I think we've gone far enough down the board that Modest would be at the top of my list. And, if the other consensus is for McCain, I'm perfectly happy with that. But I'll stump for Modest. I think he's fallen far enough.
I think they would have to have a plan to be trading Simons if they took McCain.
Yeah.
Which maybe they might be thinking about.
Yeah.
regardless of that. Metcalf.
I'll say Kaishan George.
Okay.
Size and shooting, passing, playmaking.
I'll also say Kaishan George. Albert, I believe you are the tiebreaker here.
I mean, tie's broken then. You know what it is. Keyshawn George, let's go.
Keyshawn George off the clock from Miami. Good shooter. I think he's kind of an underrated passer. Some of the playmaking stuff is pretty slick.
Played on a rough team.
Not my favorite watch this year. Show of hands if you liked watching the Miami Hurricanes. Chat.
My hand is in hell right now. You asked me that question.
Ooh, who was a worse watch? This year's Miami team or Jalen Duren's Memphis team?
Ooh.
Oh, easily.
Memphis.
I think it's Miami. Yeah,
Easily Miami.
Because
Really?
Memphis had like a
Wow.
couple stretches where they were good. They had like 2 stretches where
Yeah,
they
they
won,
also
like,
had
3
Earl
games in a row.
Timberlake throwing it off the shot clock and blaming his
Right.
teammates for not catching it.
You had at least had oh man, what's Amani gonna do? What? Amani's gone? You had some chaos.
That was at
factor.
least funny. Yeah, it was at least funny when he was at the back doctor for 3 months and no one knew what was happening. That was a good time. Now,
All right.
now I have to retweet the
Such a
Earl
legendary
Timberlake
tire fire,
pass
though.
clip.
Like truly tire fire for the ages. I Miami was bad, but I don't think they were Memphis bad.
Number 15, Miami Heat. They do it again with all of these options.
Bub.
Let's
Blows my
go.
mind.
That's-
I feel about
that's
Bub how
filthy.
you guys feel about Ron and Modest. He's my version of those 2 guys. So I would very much not be on board. And I think this would be the perfect Ron spot. I think the Miami Heat are exactly what he needs. And I think the same is true
Okay.
for Modest.
He can go to Miami and fulfill his destiny of being Corey Brewer.
Right, but we're the team, so we're drafting for what we need.
Yeah. And I think both of those guys are I would love them if I'm in the Miami Heat. I've got this aging core. I need some younger guys that can contribute on the wing that have a little bit of size to them. And that's who I'm taking every single time is Modest or Ron.
Metcalf, I can't believe you didn't go McCain.
McCain, Bub, and Modest are my top 3 guys left. So they're all in the same tier too. So I could be swayed either way, but I thought Bub was a fun mix up.
No, I'm going with Bub. I love it. Nick,
McCain.
Maxwell.
Modest.
Albert.
My vote's going to be Bub, but I thought about Ryan Dunn. Just want to say that.
Ooh.
Just imagine how much they would love Ryan Dunn. I'm just saying. Just saying.
I think we'll get to him at some point, or we won't. 16. The Philadelphia 76ers, who have 0 players on their roster next year. I think they have 4. I don't know. Maxwell, Philadelphia 76ers.
Modest Pizzellis.
Gasp.
Nick?
Here's the thing. Of the 3 players that I believe they have under contract next season, they're Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, who they have as
Great
restricted
start.
rights, and Paul Reed. So
B-ball Paul.
I mean, I'm torn between McCain and Buzelis, who are the 2 highest guys on my board, because honestly, given that they have nothing on the roster, it's more just, for me anyway, it's more just who's the best player available. But McCain overlaps enough for me with Maxey that I think they might as well be the team to give Buzelis a try.
I just love your excitement. It's just we could try it.
I mean,
What a slogan. Give Buzelis a try. So we got
all
2
I'm
for
saying is give
Buzelis.
Buzelis a chance.
Albert.
Oh, God. He's fallen enough. We can go Buzelis here.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm fine with Buzelis.
I'm
Yeah.
fine with that too, but I do want to have this conversation. Are we starting to get a little weirded out with his infatuation with Ricochet?
Yes.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's so funny. It's,
Where did that come
little
from?
bizarre.
I don't get it.
I don't know. It's like when like the two kids at school get into a fight that you never would expect to get into a fight, and you're like, what on earth is that about? Like, it's one of those, which I kind of love.
Here's what I'll say about Buzelis right now. I don't care if that dude is missing a leg. He better not miss Summer League.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
That dude better be rolling out there no matter how, whatever he's got going on. If he misses the Summer League game, then the Sixers deserve what they get. It's very weird. I think he should chill with that.
It's really weird.
It went from like fun competitive to like, all right, man, neither one of you are probably going to be the first pick now. Like, let's chill out. All right, the 17th pick, JJ Redick's Los Angeles Lakers. He was so upset by his portrayal in Clipped that he went to the other LA team.
Is that really how that went down?
That's how that went.
All right. I think it's Jared McCain pretty easily,
Yeah,
personally.
He is the highest player on our consensus board.
He's in the tier of his own and highest player on my board.
Yeah, he's the highest player left on my board as well.
Easy.
I think he also makes a ton of sense on that roster.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah. Catch and let it fly. Jared McCain to
He's gonna
the
be good.
Lakers. All right. At 18, the Orlando Magic are on the clock.
I don't want it to be a Jet Howard repeat, but I feel like saying Keyshawn George because despite Jet Howard not playing, this team
gone?
still desperately needs shooting. Oh, is he gone?
He's gone.
Oh, shit. Well, never mind then.
Also, they love Jet Howard. So
Of the shooters, I kind of like Baylor Shireman a lot.
Hmm.
I know that like he's old, but I just think like the rebounding and passing stuff helps alleviate some of the other problems that they have. And you could almost like play him with like Franz and Paolo and Wendell Carter and some of these other guys and just like pick whichever matchup you want to hide him on and sort of like hide the fact that you don't have shooting at the guard spot by playing all those guys together and still have a pretty nicely spaced floor.
I mean, I'm a big Shireman fan. It feels early.
He's in this tier for me, but like at the very end of it, I really like Sherman.
He's
But
at the high end of this tier for me, baby.
although he is the same age as Joe Ingles, so
Yeah, like legit. Like they're
Two old lefties is
He's
what
a
they say.
Chris Duarte special where like the wheels
But-
fall off really fast if it doesn't work.
but Maxwell, I'm with you. I think he's awesome. I just posted a video on Twitter today with some of his passing. I love it all. So, but good God,
How are we feeling about Jacoby as a group?
Did we still have Bub on the board too? Because I'm not a Bub guy,
No.
but I know you guys are, and I think this is the team that makes a lot of sense for Bub.
Bub gone.
Bub gone. Okay.
Bub gone.
Yeah. I mean, I like Furphy. I like Jacoby. I do think that shooting is something that they very much so need.
Dear God.
it's a little rich for me. But does a Pacome Dadier get anyone excited?
Pacome Dadier always gets me excited.
I think it's a bit rich, personally.
Yeah.
but-
This is a weird team for him because like he kind of
Yeah.
like his whole thing is like,
Overlap.
hey, I can score on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler
Paolo's
Smith.
like, good one.
I was gonna say Tyler Smith actually. This is a rough one.
We've been saying that since pick 9, Albert.
AJ
Rough
Johnson. Just see if I can slip that name in before anyone notices.
Oh, we noticed.
I'm gonna nominate Furphy solidly.
I'm good with that.
I'm still a
I'll vote
believer in Furphy. He's a project for sure, but he's athletic and he can shoot at least as much as you want to, the 18th pick in the draft to be able to shoot.
Holland still hasn't gone either.
Well, Maxwell's off camera, so Holland's not going to go here. I'd still go with Jacoby personally. I think that him with a lot less defensive attention is going to look a lot better than he looked at Baylor this last year.
Albert.
Neither of these guys would play at all
Yeah, right.
this year.
Sure.
It's-
But who would is the question.
Nobody.
Neither.
Baylor Shireman probably.
yeah.
I like, actually, Nick, I do like Jacoby. I have him ranked higher.
I
So
can
maybe
be swayed to
that's
Jacoby. I think it's a
Yeah.
pretty clean fit.
Yeah, I believe in the shooting. I like what you said. I think context is important. I'll go Jacoby here.
All right.
Love it.
The Jacoby Walter rehab project, the Orlando Magic. I think that would be an awesome spot for him, man. Okay. We have the 19th pick. The Toronto Raptors are on the clock. Nick, I just can't believe you haven't mentioned Deron Holmes in like 45 minutes.
Well, we can mention him here. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a bit optimistic, but I do really buy into the fact that he's become a very solid standstill shooter. I mean, 39% from three, 92nd percentile as a catch and shoot guy per synergy. He's someone who, the Raptors, struggled mightily from 3-point range, but, they've sort of decided that they're building around Scotty Barnes. So having a big man who can have the offense run through him sometimes, who can space the floor and defensively is a top tier shot blocker, I think could help out a lot of the areas in which Toronto struggles. So yeah, I was going to wait on bringing up Deron because I know that I'm higher on him than literally everybody else. But Corey, since you already did it for me, then let's see how other people feel about Deron Holmes. Clearly, you all love him because you're all jumping to speak.
I'll throw out Ron Holland.
Oh,
This is a Ron team, and like Ron's clearly the best guy on the board. I would have had Ron gone 10 picks ago.
Well, I disagree on that last point, but
I said I would have. I didn't say we should have.
but I think this would be the spot where he would have to do. I don't think much would be asked of him aside from the energy stuff and just kind of try and fit in where he can and figure it out as he goes. And he feels like a very much like a swing they would take.
Yeah, I'm perfectly happy to be the third vote for Ron.
me too. I think Ron can go here.
Cool.
Wait for Corey, seeing as he's the one that's controlling the picks.
There he is. Yeah, it makes sense.
So what did we decide?
Yeah,
Ron
your
Holland.
close personal friend Ron Holland is off the board.
BFF.
Ron Holland. Nice little
I
RJ
love how-
Barrett, Ron Holland downhill special.
I love how the 30 seconds that Corey is off camera is when we finally managed to get Ron Holland selected.
Hey, I think that if Ron Holland wants to aspire to be an awesome role player, I think he's going to be a good player in the league. If he wants to be Jaylen Brown, I think it's a little murkier at that point. Number 20, Cleveland Cavaliers. Metcalf.
Baylor Shireman.
Maxwell's shaking his head up and down. You're also Shireman here.
Yep. Him and Filipowski are the two highest on my board. And they already have Dean Wade, so let's get Baylor Shireman on this team.
Wow.
I'd be open to like a Jalen Tyson. I know I like Kevin McCullough more than a lot of people. I'd be open to him.
Highest guy on my board is Filipowski, but no.
Mhm.
Love Shireman. I feel great about Tyson here. I have him at
Tyson, too.
20, so I don't mind that at all.
Tyson gives him a little something different because, like,
Exactly.
yeah, because it's like if you're bringing back Niang and then like Strus is a little perimeter oriented, like Tyson's a little bit different. Like it's a little more downhill, rough and tumble. Just a different kind of attacking element.
Can I bring up a wild card here?
Yes.
The Cavaliers were very good defensively last year, but one of the areas where they struggled was defensive playmaking. They were bottom 10 in blocks and nearly bottom 10 in steals. What about Ryan Dunn? Just plug him in, let the offense run through everybody else, have him sit in the dunker spot, switch on everybody.
I need Evan Mobley to commit to shooting like 5 threes a game. If
That's
fair.
fair.
Happen.
Yeah, that's kind of tough.
I'm gonna say Tyson.
Why did he only shoot like 53% at the rim this year in the half court?
They were an atrocious shooting team. Like
sure.
I'm not a big fan of like the spacing excuse in general, but I do think they were like a particularly bad shooting team, and I think he probably just got a little bit too much tip on his chip, a little bit too. Like I think he forced some looks for sure.
I like Tyson. Very toolsy.
Way different role coming into this Cavs team. Just
Yeah,
if he plays second unit stuff, yeah.
Yeah. I like Shireman's probably better, but he's really old.
And like you already kind of have similar enough stuff.
Yeah, you have Strus, you have Sam Merrill.
Mm-hmm.
Same age as Tristan Thompson. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So are we going Jalen Tyson here?
That's
Things
my
are getting
vote.
bleak in this draft.
I'm good with that. There was the Tristan Thompson thing. Just remind me, there was a moment in the Magic Cavs series where like Tristan Thompson and like Joe Ingles and someone else were like all on the floor together. And I felt like I was having a fever dream, like seeing them play in a modern playoff game together. It was wild. Pelican.
All right. Let's go to the New Orleans Pelicans with the 21st pick in the draft.
This team is so murky.
Guys, the enthusiasm that we have at this point in the draft, like someone needs to call a timeout.
Yeah.
Tyler Kolek.
Ooh,
Interesting one.
there it is.
I think I'm gonna go Kel'el Ware.
What is the argument for Ware over Filipowski here? Because I think like the Filipowski fit's a little more interesting to me.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
But I'm
I
open
was
to
g-
Ware. Like this is the same tier for me. So
Yeah, I mean, I have Filipowski like higher on my personal board, but I feel like I think Valanciunas is a free agent, and I think Filipowski is a 4 rather than a 5. And I mean, I guess Zion can offensively be kind of 5, but I don't trust the defense enough, even with Trey Murphy and Herb Jones. But I think Kel'el Ware is he's pretty solid. I mean, I get the motor stuff. I don't necessarily buy into his shooting all that much right now. Maybe down the line, potentially. I mean, I don't love a ton of options on the board right now, but I think that he's at least got a little bit of potential to reach some higher end outcomes here.
Kel'el Ware is so athletic that he's literally just like, hey, keep your hands up away from being like an everyday NBA player. Like it's like I don't know. Like I get the motor knocks, but I feel like some of this stuff could be really, really simple to fix. So I'm open to it.
Metcalf?
If we're going center, I would much rather go like a Deron Holmes, Yves Missy than Ware, even like in a Dembona. But I'm by far the low man on Ware of the group. So happy to get overruled.
Anybody else? So we're not sitting here in dead silence.
My bad.
Yeah,
I was thinking Deron Holmes.
I mean,
I like
you got my vote.
Yeah, I like it, but I get it with the Ware bet too. Good.
I'm still sticking with Kolek though.
I mean, I don't hate Tyler Kolek there either. Like, I think they do kind of need like a floor generally point guard. I think, you know, a lot of people in the chat and watching are probably like, oh, what about Isaiah Collier there? But Kolek's probably a little more trustworthy in that regard. Albert,
Sorry. Yeah. I'll go.
final answer.
Final answer. Deron Holmes.
Nick, final answer.
Deron Holmes.
Maxwell, final answer.
If it's just between Deron and Kolek, I would go Deron.
Okay. Deron Holmes. Welcome to
You're
New
gonna have to
Orleans.
scroll down way too far to find him.
Yeah, I passed him, I think.
Yeah, I think
He
he's
could
like
go
in
in
the
this
late
range,
30s.
though.
I think I
possible.
think he's going to.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is. Let's just find him. There he is. Look at him making his way up the ESPN board.
Love it.
Okay. With the 22nd pick in the draft, the Suns are now on the clock. Metcalf, Kolek.
Kolek.
I'm going to go Kolek as well.
I'm gonna say Filipowski.
Albert.
Philip. Oh, no. Sorry.
All of us had you there.
Kolek.
Oh, that's
All
three.
right. That's
Boom.
3.
For the
Metcalf,
record,
what about
I would take Kevin McCullough here. Would be my pick if I were them.
Oh.
Metcalf,
Another injury.
what about Tyler Kolek is interesting to you?
He had the same max vertical as Isaiah Collier. I thought that was pretty interesting. He's elite at getting paint touches and pressuring the rim and then playmaking and making the right decision out of that. He shot like over 70% on drives to his left, drives to his right. Don't look up that number. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. The pull-up shooting, the disparity between the pull-up shooting and the shooting off the catch was wild, but elite spot-up shooter. The defensive playmaking numbers were solid, and I don't think he's going to ever, in this context, I don't think he would really ever be relied upon to be a pull-up shooter, and instead, as a spot-up option off of KD, Booker, Beal, that's an awesome outlet, along with someone who can pressure the rim, collapse the defense, and then create for them as well.
I love it.
Preach.
They need a guy who can play right away. That they need. All right. 23. The Milwaukee Bucks are on the clock. Maxwell.
I feel like I have no gauge for what this team is going to do because I feel like it's one of those teams that's like both good but has a lot of like weird holes that need to be plugged at the same time. Yeah.
I mean, they're
Man.
old.
Yeah, they're really old. Is this the Baylor Shireman team? No. Yeah, I like him. I like Kel'el Ware. I like a Pecum Dadier here. I like Filipowski. I wouldn't mind Tyler Smith if you want a future Bobby Portis replacement, which I know Milwaukee Bucks fans love to hear. Yeah, I'm fine with like any of the tall guys that do some stuff.
All right. I'll nominate Kel'el Ware.
That's good with me. I think a year under the Brook Lopez tutelage could go a long way.
But I was thinking the same thing for Filipowski.
Yeah.
You put Filipowski and have him be the Brook Lopez apprentice, heir apparent. Could be interesting.
I feel like he's closer to the Bobby Portis era apparent too.
Okay. But you've got Giannis, so it's not like the end of the world if you have Filipowski sort of offensively in the 4th spot or you need extra rim protection out there.
Metcalf, I think you're the deciding vote.
And those two? Oh, God.
Boys.
I can't throw out like a Kevin McCullough.
I mean, you could.
No, I guess Filipowski's highest on my board. So if it's those two options, Filipowski.
All right. Kyle Filipowski to the Milwaukee Bucks. We are on pick 24. The Knicks are going to have the 24th and 25th pick in this mock. Albert, resident Knicks fan, where you headed?
I would do this. I think the Knicks would do it too. Ryan Dunn.
Okay. Nick, you're shaking your head. Are you also voting for Ryan Dunn?
I will absolutely second that vote.
Metcalf.
Yeah, that works for me.
All right. Ryan Dunn. Metcalf, what do you like about Ryan Dunn?
The spot up shooting, really, no. The defense is legit
Wow.
one of the best defenders
Yeah.
I've ever scouted.
Ever.
Freak athlete too. If he can literally figure out anything on offense, he's gonna be plus value.
Yeah. Tibbs likes his defensive rebounders for sure.
Freak out.
All right. Knicks are still on the clock. Albert, you hit that one out of the park. That one went quick. So who do you got next?
We'll go the opposite end of the spectrum, Baylor Shireman.
Okay.
I like
was gonna
balance.
say opposite end of the spectrum, Tyler Smith, but
That interesting option. Would not be against that actually, but just between the two, I just feel like Shireman's closer to playing. So I'm going Shireman, and I just feel like he'll walk in and he'll be an adult. And if you gave Tibbs, Ryan Dunn, and Baylor Shireman, I think you've had a really good draft. So
I also think
Maxwell.
Tibbs is like, I would go Sherman here too. I think Tibbs is also like, he deserves credit for being able to scheme around some of these like shooters that really don't play defense over the years too. Like, I think that's something he's a little better at than he gets credit for.
Yeah, Tibbs is an awesome coach. He's a really awesome coach. All right, so how many votes do we have for Shireman? We got 1 from Albert, 2 from Maxwell.
Mhm. Yep.
I'm gonna be annoying and throw out a center. Just because it kind of seems like Isaiah Hartenstein might be gone and Mitchell Robinson gets hurt every other week. So I would say Yves Missy or even like a Dembona.
If you had to pick one of those options.
Same tier, but I have Missy ranked higher.
Okay. Albert, you reacted to that.
no, I was actually going to say it feels like it's going to be the opposite, where the Knicks are going to try to bring back Hartenstein and maybe trade Robinson. Is some of the smoke that's been going on. But other
You
than
can stick with
those,
Shireman.
yeah, I like Shireman, but if we are going center, isn't Kel'el Ware still on our board?
He
I believe
is.
he is.
I'd rather throw Ware
Yeah.
up there if they're going the center route. But I'm going to stick with Shireman for me.
Okay. So we have 2 for Shireman. Metcalf said Missy. Nick?
I think I'm going to say Tyler Smith.
Okay. So that means that Baylor Shireman it is. Okay. The Wizards are on the clock with the 26th pick. They took Alex Sarr with the 2nd pick. Maxwell, what would you do for the second Washington Wizards selection?
Oh, do I want to give him another French guy? I kind of want to give him another French guy. Go with Daddy here. Like, it's just like more size and shooting. I
You
also
can
wouldn't.
nominate whoever you want.
Yeah, I also wouldn't hate the Collier flyer here. But that's just another guy that doesn't shoot. I'll go Daddy here.
If we're going flyer, I'm saying AJ Johnson.
I'm going to go Collier.
If I'm going flyer, I'm going Justin Edwards. Sorry.
Nick, who's your flyer?
God, you know what? I'll just end this and make the third Collier vote so that we can move on.
Collier.
All right, Isaiah Collier. Look, if he's in shape and if he wants to play defense, like there will be a role for him if he's just somebody who gives effort, because his first step is insane. He still has really great vision. I think he's got a pretty creative layup package.
Yeah.
I think there's something there with him.
He has to completely rebuild his shot, though, from the ground floor. It's my opinion.
there's a lot of work to be done. With the 27th pick, Metcalf, the Timberwolves are on the clock. What would you do here?
We all know what you're going to say. Just say it.
This is gross.
Antonio
No, I'm
Reed.
not
Get
going
your
AJ
guy.
Johnson.
Get your
They
guy.
need, they need someone to play. You can take home run swings in the second round at 37.
True.
In hour 4 of this podcast. I'm gonna say AJ Mitchell.
Okay.
First time hearing his name today.
Another lefty.
Open to suggestions.
Good scorer. What about AJ Mitchell?
The way he played at the combine and really played with a ton of physicality and defended, I thought was a pleasant surprise. Shifty creator, and I think is someone who can kind of help create and be that backup point guard very early at a very low salary, which this team desperately needs.
Is it the
AJ
size and physicality that gives him the edge over like a KJ Simpson? If you're going to go guard here,
Yes,
I like Dylan Jones. I think in a more complimentary role, Dylan is going to shoot it better, more catch and shoot opportunities, 85% from the free throw line, ton of long twos, really good rebounder. I thought even like his defense at the combine, he already had shown that he can defend better than he did at Weber State, where, he's pretty much, I don't want to say he was taking plays off, but he wasn't guarding as hard as he could. So he avoided foul trouble. And he's a good passer. He'll do connective stuff. He's strong. I'm going to go Dylan Jones. Albert.
I actually wanted to say Dylan Jones.
You still can.
then say it.
if we're going to go with the guy with shooting concerns, is it just the injuries that give him the nod over McCullough?
I
kind of fits the defensive identity here, and like he's a similar enough shooter to Dylan Jones.
I think I buy Dylan's shot more.
This team is
But-
also very low in terms of like perimeter athleticism and ability to get paint touches outside of Anthony Edwards.
Mitchell did
You
get
know,
into paint a lot too.
Exactly. The creativity with him I like. I'll go Mitchell then. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll defer
That's 2
to
for
our
Mitchell.
Wolves expert.
Maxwell.
Yeah, my gut still just says McCullough.
Nick.
I think I'd probably go McCullough too, actually.
All right. So that
Wow.
means I am the tie-breaking vote between Kevin McCullough and AJ Mitchell. I'm going to, we have a resident Timberwolves fan, I will acquiesce to Metcalf and go with AJ Mitchell. Who I think's really interesting.
Yeah, it's a good pick.
You can really
6'4".
score.
Yeah.
All right. 28th pick, Denver Nuggets on the clock. One of the guys they were connected to is off the board already. But this is what we would do. So we can get crazy here. Maxwell, what are you thinking for Denver here?
Yeah, can you scroll back up to the top of the?
Why
the
can't
list
I?
Here? Man. Okay. Yikes. The highest rated guys for me are Tyler Smith, Daddy A, and Furphy. And Kel'el Ware. And yeah, Misi's in that mix too. I feel like Misi doesn't really fit what they do. I feel like Ware is closer to that, even though he doesn't really either. Smith just like feels very Zeke Naji to me, and I don't know if you want to do that again. Man, but I really think they want a guy who's like going to do stuff tomorrow. And if that's the case, I wonder if you look at like a Dembona instead. I don't know.
I'd really have to scroll down if you're going to find do stuff tomorrow, guys.
Yeah. I guess I'll throw Yves Misi out there.
Okay. I'm going to go with Dylan Jones again. for the reasons I mentioned earlier. Nick.
Either Dylan Jones or Kel'el Ware, I think, would be my two highest options. I technically have Smith higher, but I agree with Maxwell. The fit doesn't make as much sense.
Okay. If you had to pick one, who would you pick?
I guess I do technically have to pick one, don't I? Yeah, let's go with Dylan Jones.
Okay. Metcalf.
I'll throw out Jonathan Magbo.
I thought about this fit with Magbo the other day, and I'm like extremely leery of his overall like super high end outcomes, but I do think this is one of the teams where he makes a lot of sense.
Manimal 2, little Aaron Gordon.
Wow. Yeah.
It's the Aaron
The
Gordon.
sequel.
There it is.
Yeah.
Enrique Freeman is also very intriguing here for me. But
Albert.
I like Enrique too.
I'm gonna go Ware.
Okay.
Hmm.
So we have
Two
how many
Jones,
for
one
Magbo?
Ware.
one.
Just one. So we all have one, or does Dylan have two?
Dylan has two.
Okay. I believe Dylan wins then.
Dylan Jones, welcome to Denver.
Beautiful.
Mile High. He's used to the altitude already. Okay. That means with
up
the 29th pick, the Utah Jazz are back on the clock. Nikola Topic was the 10th pick in the draft for them.
Furphy.
Oh. Very
Freeman.
creative.
Albert knows my agenda. Shout out to
Albert.
Albert Donaldson.
Let me pass for a second. I need to think about this. Sorry.
Okay. Maxwell.
Daddy A.
All right. So far we have an Enrique Freeman, a Daddy A. Nick, you were Furphy.
Correct.
I'll switch to AJ Johnson because I read the pick wrong. I was looking at 30, not 29.
SMH.
I'm also AJ because he's the highest guy left on my board, and I don't mind the situation. So let's go AJ for me.
All right. I will also go with AJ here to move things along a little bit because we are at the final pick of this mock draft, final pick of the first round. The 2024 NBA champion Boston Celtics are on the clock. Who are we giving to Tyler Rucker's Boston Celtics? Nick.
I mean, I think Furphy makes sense here too.
They like guys who could shoot the three, apparently.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Kel'el Ware
I like Kel'el Ware a lot here too.
in a
Al
weird
Horford.
Porzingis role.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say Freeman.
Yeah, you do.
Albert, what do you got?
I'm going Kel'el Ware too. Al Horford can't play forever.
Al Horford takes that as a challenge.
If
Albert.
that's what you think.
I like Ware here. Let's go Ware.
He's very, very big.
very big.
Very tall,
7'1".
likes to shoot a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
A very
Yeah.
little bit, but good rim finisher.
But I
Pretty
will
good
say,
touch.
you look at what Jordan Wall shot in the G League this year and like the volume increase he had. Like, I think this is a team where it's like you throw Ware in the G League for a year. And like, if he's good enough,
Davidson lobs
he's
are going
good
to be
enough-
fire.
Oh my god.
if he's good enough to play right away, that's like a luxury problem that you have. But with Nehemiah Skata and Xavier Tillman, I don't think you need him to. And then, yeah, you just get that shot going. Have him ready to go.
They won the G League title too, correct?
I think they were in the finals. I don't know if they won or not. Shout out to Nick Ferrante, No Cynics Plus member. He's a diehard. He still calls him the Red Claws. Refuses to call them the Maine Celtics. Maine Red Claws fan.
The Oklahoma City Blue won the G League title.
Yeah. Shout out to Boston on their successful G League season. That's the end of our our mock draft, man. This was a lot of fun. Everybody who's still here watching along, if you're watching along on YouTube, please hit the like button before you head out of the room. If you haven't yet, we have a draft guide that's still available for you to cram. It's very digestible. It has stats. It has scouting reports from the whole team. That is available at noceilingsnba.com. Head to store or click on the pinned post and you'll find a link to the Big Cartel site where we also have merch. But before we get out of here, let's run through the results. Donovan Clingan went number 1 to the Atlanta Hawks. Alex Sarr went 2 to the Wizards. Reed Shepard went 3 to the Rockets. Stephen Castle went 4 to the Spurs. Zachary Richeche went 5 to the Pistons. Devin Carter went 6 to the Hornets. Dalton Connect went 7 to the Blazers. Rob Dillingham went 8th to the Spurs. Zach Edey went 9th to the Grizzlies. Nikola Topic 10th to the Jazz. Cody Williams 11th to the Chicago Bulls. 12, Tristan Da Silva to the OKC Thunder. G League champion blue as well. Sacramento Kings at 13 went Tijan Salon. Keyshawn George went 14 to the Portland Trailblazers. Bub Carrington went 15th to the Miami Heat. 16th, Modest Buzelis went to the 76ers. Jared McCain, 17th to the Lakers. Jacoby Walter, 18th to the Magic. Ron Holland, 19th to the Raptors. Jalen Tyson, 20th to the Cavaliers. Deron Holmes, 21st to the Pelicans. Tyler Kolek, 22nd to the Suns. Kyle Filipowski, 23rd to the Bucks. Ryan Dunn, 24th to the Knicks. Baylor Shireman, 25th to the Knicks. Isaiah Collier, 26th to the Wizards. AJ Mitchell, 27th to the Timberwolves. Dylan Jones, 28th to the Nuggets. AJ Johnson, 29th to the Jazz. Kel'el Ware, 30th to the Boston Celtics. That is No Ceilings final What Would We Do mock draft. We appreciate everybody watching along live with us. You guys are the best. The support that we have gotten all year from everyone has been unbelievable. You are the reason we are able to do what we do and have a smile on our face while we do it. So thank you for rocking with us all season. We will be back tomorrow night at 7:30 for the NBA draft. We are going to be streaming all night long for the draft, reacting, discussing, breaking everything down. We'll also be back for night 2. So make sure you are locked in to the No Ceilings NBA YouTube. We will see you there, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's go. 2024 NBA draft. We're here. See y'all tomorrow night. Peace.